Hello cooks and welcome to the community kitchen. My name's Charlotte and I'm here to show you how to make your vegetarian chili, which you would have received in your recipe kits. And if you haven't received it in a recipe kit and you're just watching this video on one of our other channels, then welcome. Let's get started. So we're making a vegetarian chili today. So you might have heard of chili made with beef mince or turkey mince, but today we're going to be making it with red lentils. So what we're going to need for this recipe is an onion, some garlic, some spices. Today we're using ground cumin and ground coriander, and some red lentils, some veg stock, and some kidney beans, tin of tomatoes, which I've already opened ready to go, and some tomato puree. So the first thing we need to do is prepare our onions. So we're going to cook our onions down. So for the sake of anyone that hasn't seen one of these videos before or doesn't know, isn't quite sure on how to prep an onion, I'm just going to show you my method now. For those of you that have done this already, you can get on with doing your onion now. So there's two main safe ways to use a knife. So the first one is a hold that we call a bridge. So we make a bridge with our first finger and our thumb and make a bridge, and then the idea is that knife passes through the bridge. So I'm going to use, and the other one is called the claw. So we tuck our thumb under, our fingers go in front like that, we tuck our little finger back as well. Okay, so the front of our fingers are protecting our thumb and little finger. So I'm going to use my claw just to take the root, so the top bit, sorry, not the root, the stalk of my onion. Okay. And then I'm going to use my bridge to chop my onion in half, leaving the root intact and the skin on. So I've made my bridge. I'm going to pass my knife through the bridge and I'm going to peel the skin. Now I'm leaving that root intact, the idea being that hopefully by leaving that root on, it won't make my eyes get too watery. Okay. So pull off the skin. And it's a good idea to have your kettle boiling. So I've already filled up my kettle and it's just coming up to the boil now. If you haven't done that, you can get your kettle on to boil soon as well. And I'm going to show you how to chop up this onion. So we're going to dice the onion. So the first thing we're going to do is, doing our claw, we're going to chop this onion vertically. We're going to make vertical slices in this onion. Change to my bridge at the end. But I haven't gone all the way down to the root. Okay, and then I'm just going to flip it around the other way and do my horizontal cuts. And that's called dicing. And you can just discard the little root there now, okay? I'm going to do the same with my other half of my onion. So not all the way to the end, slices. So it's intact and it's just like kind of like a fan with the root intact. Turn it round and just slice it back the other way. And just once more, that's called our dice. Okay, so I've got my onion diced up. Now I'm going to get my pan on. I'm going to get the pan onto a medium heat. I'm going to heat up a little bit of oil in my pan, so that could be vegetable oil, olive oil or sunflower oil. And I'm going to let that oil warm up in my pan. And while I just wait for that, I'm going to get my hot water. So I'm just going to make up my stock while I wait for my pan to get hot. So you're going to need 300 ml of boiling water in with your stock cube. You can have this done before you start cooking. It's okay if you have it done before and it's just sitting waiting, because if it cools down a little bit, it's fine. Right, so I'm going to put my onions into my pan. And I'm going to cook these onions over a medium heat for about 5 to 8 minutes, I'd say, until they're starting to soften and go a little bit translucent. They start to go a little bit see-through. We don't want them to get very, very brown because they might taste burnt if we let them get too brown. So the next thing we're going to do is chop up some garlic. So we're going to use 2 cloves of garlic. So I'm just going to remove 2 cloves from this bowl. When it's like this, it's called a bowl. Okay, and I'm going to take my 2 cloves off. If they're small, you can use 3. Okay. Stirring your onions every now and again. We don't want them to get burnt. Okay, so again, for those of you that haven't seen me do this before or want a little refresh, I'll show you how a really quick way to get the skin off your garlic. Use your claw to chop off the top and bottom, the very, very top and the very, very bottom. You don't need to take off lots and lots and lots. You're going to put the flat of your knife onto your garlic and then firmly press it down and to remove the skin. Same on the other one. Don't forget to come back to your onions and give them a little bit of a stir. And remember, we want them nice and soft and translucent. So I'm going to start finely chopping my garlic. So I'm going to carefully chop it up into pieces, both cloves. And then I'm going to really, really, really carefully run my knife through this garlic, and that's called a rock chop. So I'm keeping the tip of my knife in place on the board, and I'm going to move my blade through the garlic. That's called our rock chop, and that's going to help us get a really nice fine chop on that garlic. Okay? So you can just keep putting your garlic knife through the garlic. Don't forget to come back to your onions, give them a stir. If it looks like they're getting a bit brown or they're starting to get stuck to the bottom of the pan, you can just turn it down a little bit. And I'm just going to carry on a little bit more with my garlic. You want to get it fairly fine, because it'll be unpleasant if you have big chunks of garlic in your food. I'm happy with that. So once the garlic's been chopped, I'm going to add that to my onions. Put my my board to one side now. So I've got my onions and my garlic in here now, cooking away nicely. I can start thinking about the rest of my ingredients. So our flavourings today are some ground cumin and ground coriander. You're going to use a teaspoon of each. If you made this in future, you could also try adding a pinch of oregano and a bay leaf. Even a pinch of chili flakes or chili powder would be nice too. But we're keeping it simple with a teaspoon of cumin and a teaspoon of coriander. This combination tastes lovely. And with the teaspoon of cumin and the teaspoon of coriander, you're going to add some red lentils. Now, these red lentils, I've given them a little bit of a rinse. They looked a little bit gritty, so I gave them a little bit of a rinse under some cold water. And then I'm going to add them into my pan. Now, red lentils are a great, cheap, delicious source of vegetarian protein. So it's worth trying to incorporate them into your diet as much as you can. They're super nutritious and also full of fibre. So I'm going to give that a good stir to coat the lentils in the spices and the onions. And then the next thing we're going to go in with is the tinned tomatoes. So I've just got a tin of chopped tomatoes here, which I'm going to add in. A tablespoon, or actually I'm going to show you a trick with the tomatoes. If you just pop a little bit of, carefully add some hot water into the tin of tomatoes, once you've emptied it, swill it round, you can get most of the tomatoes out of the can without wasting a tomato, and get a bit of extra moisture in there. I'm going to add in a tablespoon of the tomato puree. This will last well in the fridge for ages. Check the packet, but I keep mine in the fridge for quite some time and it's still good. You can use it for lots of different recipes. Give it a good stir. You're also going to go in with some kidney beans. So I've got a drained can of kidney beans here. You can also try adding a different type of beans. Kidney beans are traditional, but if you add a different type of bean, that can also be a really good way to get some different nutrients in. So I've got my drained and rinsed can of beans. And then I'm just going to finish it off with my stock. Just give the cube a little bit of a stir in the hot water and pour that on. And give the whole thing a really, really good stir. Give it a really good stir until it's really, really well mixed. So the next thing we're we're going to do at this stage is we're going to turn the heat up quite high on our pan, because we want to bring everything in this pan up to a good boil. So that means we're going to see lots of big bubbles in there. It's all bubbling away, it'll be steaming lots. So we're going to bring that up to a boil. That might depend, it might take some time depending what kind of hob you've got. So we're bringing this up to a boil. And once it's started boiling, you're going to turn that heat down again. And we want that heat now down on low. And we're going to do what's called simmer this, so that it's going to have a little bit of movement in it, maybe a few little bubbles, but it's just going to be gently on a low heat simmering. And we're going to cook this chili for about 30 minutes, but you're going to stir it occasionally just to check that it's not sticking to the bottom and that it's not getting too dry. If it is getting a little bit dry, or if you know, because the lentils need some moisture to cook, so if you notice that it is getting a bit dry, you can top up with a bit of boiling water and just continue to cook that. And you can just keep checking it, keep giving it a stir until the lentils are soft to the touch. So you or your adult can scoop out a lentil, hold it between your fingers and press it. And if it breaks down easily and is very soft, then your lentils are cooked. You can give it a taste for seasoning, give it a taste for salt and pepper, and then your chili's done. And it's absolutely delicious with rice. You can have it as a jacket potato topping, and it's even more delicious the day after you've cooked it. So if you keep that in the fridge, you can eat it the next day, and it is absolutely delicious. You can cook this, double the recipe, cook it a big batch, and then freeze it in small takeaway tubs, so you've got a portion of chili ready for days when you don't want to cook. You can take it out the freezer in the morning. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. Oh, don't forget to heat it all the way through as well if you're defrosting it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and happy cooking.